Returning first up, and the person who's going to do the keynote for the inter-education session, is a returning counsellor. She's an author, she's a journalist, she's a member of one of the most famous families in Asia. Returning counsellor, Fatima Bhutto.
Oh, that me. What am I doing? Me first? Or only me?
Next up, you've only just you saw him like 10 seconds ago, so I'll give him a very quick intro. We're going to welcome back John Simpson. He's probably run off to the restroom. No, he hasn't. He's here.
And a much favored counsellor, I think. It's Nadya Tolokkonikova.
Welcome back.
And for the first time, a new counsellor. You saw him briefly last night on the stage, but we didn't hear from him. Asia Pacific Telecom CEO of the Year, and an incredibly valuable, effective, and generous member of the Bangkok Advisory Board for One Young World 2015, my dear friend, Suphachai Chearavanont.
Welcome back. Good to see you. And then finally, you saw him on the big stage yesterday, one of Hollywood's royalty, the producer of the two biggest grossing films of all time, Avatar and Titanic, John Landau. Now, you always amaze us because we work you like non-stop, and your powers of concentration and levels of energy are unbelievable. But what we thought we'd do to get a little bit more oxygen back in the room is we're going to do a thing we do every One Young World. We're going to ask you all to stand up, and we're going to ask you to say hello to the person next to you in the way that you say hello back in your country. So it's also about education. So to the person next to you, let's greet them in the... Okay.
They're not going to stop. Hello? Hello? Everybody sit down, okay? Give yourselves a round of applause. Yay!
Woo!
To introduce this session, one of the most eloquent voices of our age. If you haven't read her books, then you should. Returning to One Young World for the 4th time, welcome Fatima Bhutto.
Okay, thank you, Kate and David, for hosting us and for allowing us to have these conversations, which I really never have anywhere but here. And thank you to all the delegates, and especially the education delegates, for allowing us to be a part of your sessions and allowing us to listen and to learn from you. Now, yesterday I got a paper that said I was going to speak about education and gender. But obviously, by the time I got that paper, I'd already changed my mind and decided not to talk about that. And I decided not to talk about that because I was reminded yesterday of something Kofi Annan said to One Young World in Johannesburg 2 years ago. Were any of you there? Yeah, okay. So you obviously know what I'm talking about, but for the others, Kofi Annan said 2 years ago, talking about the world we live in, that we were not as separate as we imagined, or as we tried to insist, and that in today's world we either sink or swim together. If that wasn't glaringly true in 2013, it's certainly true now. In the hyper-connected, globalized world we occupy today, Paris can't be safe for so long as Damascus burns. London can't thrive while Kabul suffers. And you can do this pretty much with any combination of cities you want. School children in New York are not safe while school children in Baghdad live in fear. And so I want to talk to you instead of gender about education and the refugee crisis, because it matters deeply, and it matters whether we are from these countries or neighbors of these countries. It matters to all of us. And I want to talk to you really briefly about Syria, which is the country where I was educated as a young girl. Now, before the war, before the fighting broke out in 2011, Syria spent 5% of her GDP on education. You're all really quiet. Is this the education plenary, or am I in the wrong room? Yes? Okay. I just had a moment of nightmare. So before the fighting, Syria spent 5% of her GDP on education. And compare that with the 2.4% that the much richer Qatar spends, or the 3-point-something% that the much, much, much richer Kuwait spent. Before the war broke out, Syria was at 99% enrollment in primary school. They were at 82% enrollment at secondary school. They had almost hit universal education. And education in Syria was free for boys and girls in primary school, secondary school, and even university. Before the war, literacy in Syria was at about 86%, pretty equally between men and women. And for all intents and purposes, that's now over. That's finished. The UN estimates that the fighting over the past 4 years has set Syria's progresses in education back at least 10 years. It's the most rapid decline in the region. And of course, we know that millions of children are out of school, whether inside or outside of Syria. And in addition, 5,000 to 10,000 schools have been either destroyed by the fighting or have been occupied by various forces. Now, you all know the numbers. I'm sure you've discussed them lots since you've been here, but I think it bears repeating. 12 million Syrians have left their country. Half of those are children. There are 4 million Syrian refugees, and 2 to 3 million children outside of school. That very educated population of children is one of the largest casualties of this fighting. 1 in 10 Syrian children works instead of studies, and obviously you know that they're working for nothing close to minimum wage and with 0 benefits. And numbers, I've always hated numbers actually because they are so grim and depressing. And these are especially grim, but they're interesting, and they're interesting because they're fluid. So just looking at Turkey, one country out of all the many where Syrians have had to go, there are 400,000 school children, Syrian-aged school children, out of school in Turkey. And something like 98% of university-level refugees have had to abandon their studies. But the moment they have access, those numbers drop. They just nosedive. In 1951, the Convention on Refugees guarantees education for refugees wherever they are. So I don't quite understand how we have 121 million children out of school. And I don't understand how out of this enormous number, which is so big, you have 25 million children who will never see the inside of a classroom in their lifetime. At these crossroads which we find ourselves today, I don't understand how we speak of education with things like gender. When we look at the stateless, we have to go far beyond gender. When we look at the resourceless and the homeless, we have to speak for everybody. Because obviously girls are at a disadvantage, but when we're talking about statelessness, nobody is coming out on top. No one, boys or girls, are going to school. I have a few more numbers to upset you with, before I hand it over to some very inspiring people. But generally, access to education when you look at refugees, not just Syrians, but anyone, whether it's Palestinians or Afghans, is pretty dire. Primary school education enrollment is at about 76%, which says nothing about how long those children last. It just says that they enroll. That plummets to 36% in secondary school. And if you're interested at university level, it's pretty much invisible. It's at 1%. Today, we find ourselves not even close to the end of a 15-year-old war in Afghanistan, 12 years in Iraq, drone wars in Pakistan, in Yemen, interference and turbulence in Libya and in Syria. And it's more important now than ever to speak about education, especially when it concerns the statelessness. I'm amazed how the media keeps saying refugee crisis, and they always say crisis like it's a crisis for you, or your companies, or like it's a crisis for Europe. It's not a crisis for Europe, it's a crisis for the refugees, the millions of people who've lost their homes and their families and their schools. And it's today, it's in 2015, this incredibly advanced age where you have the world's largest refugee population since World War II. And unfortunately, a lot of the same language that we saw then too. But what I like, the example I always like and I think should be moved into education is the example of Pope Francis, who in the most compassionate response that I've read or heard recently, asked every church and every monastery and every diocese to open up their doors to refugees whenever they found them. And so should schools. So should schools and universities and all of you who are educators, and there's so many inspiring educators among you today. I'm done, I promise. They're going to start flashing things at me, I think. But when you speak today of education, when you talk to each other, and when you make networks and connections, please think outside of girls versus boys, primary versus secondary. Please think of the dispossessed and the displaced and the stateless, because if you don't, I don't know who does. Thank you.
Nailed it.
From the seat. Thank you, Fatima, so articulate as always. And now let's bring on and give a huge welcome to the delegate speakers.
Yay!
John, take it away.
When I found out that I was going to be on the education panel, I was very excited because to me, there is no greater crisis that we face than education. Without solving this crisis, we can't solve all of the other issues that are being talked about at this great event. And I was very excited that I'd get to introduce Raymond, who's sitting here next to me, who's gone out and actually taken action to make a difference. He identified a problem in his home country that is steeped in cultural tradition, where women are given marriage at a very young age, and it prevents them from ever continuing their education. Raymond created a program where these women are able to go out and have an education that gives them a value in the world. Education, to me, has to go beyond the academic classroom. And that's exactly what Raymond has created, a program that gives women the tools to go out there into the world and make something of themselves. So I'm very proud to introduce to you Raymond Mugu Jaikisa.
Good evening, One Young World. I'm happy to be in Thailand, Bangkok, and it's a pleasure speaking to all of you. In Uganda, one of the biggest societal issues is early childhood marriage. 40% of girls are married before the age of 18, traded off for dowry so as to improve their family's financial situation. These girls lose control over their own futures at the expense of their education, health, and social aspirations. Adolescent girls are more likely to die from childbirth-related complications than older women and face greater risk of abuse and contracting HIV, which greatly diminishes the enrollment of girls in school and their empowerment in society. According to UNICEF, 47 out of 54 African countries, girls have less than a 50% chance of completing primary school. With women making up more than 50% of Africa's population, many advocates of gender empowerment question how the continent's current economic growth and outlook will be sustained if the subjugation of women issues is still deeply and widely embedded. Even though educating girls and women has a powerful transgenerational effect and is a key determinant of social development, eliminating gender disparities in primary and secondary education requires gender issues be mainstreamed throughout the education system, supported by adequate resources and strong political commitment. Merely ensuring access for girls' education is not enough. Unsafe environment for girls in school, like lack of enough toilets, lack of sanitary pads, unfavorable conditions, keep them away from school. Often, this leads to lower rates of completion, increasing illiteracy among women. 2 out of 3 women around the world are illiterate, which is a crucial factor in promoting girls' education. Comprehensive efforts are needed at all levels and in all areas to eliminate gender discrimination and to promote mutual respect between girls and boys, women and men. In order to solve this situation, I started an initiative with a group of friends I work with. We called it the Education Reach Initiative, where we challenged ourselves to do something by reaching out to our employers. I shared the idea with a few colleagues and partnered with several organizations. One of them was Barclays in Uganda. The initiative trains girls in personal development, entrepreneurship, and ICT, and has reached more than 2,000 girls in more than 1 year. For each girl who is trained to become assertive and enterprising, an entire family benefits. Participants teach their families to create their own income, which then provides the funding needed to keep the girls in school, out of early marriage, and on the path to realizing their dreams. One of our main concerns is the change of mindset in society, where society still thinks women can't take up top positions in organizations and in government. To do this, we need to break this norm that society still has. Community leaders and religious leaders, civil society organizations, who are the main integral part of the local communities, need to do something about this. Women and girls need to be considered as agents of change to enable them to contribute to the economic, social, and political development within their community and have equal access to health and information, political development within their own societies. So these girls will be challenged to go back to their communities and reach out to other young girls. And if such an initiative could be done at a national level, more girls would be empowered to stay in school, and this will be able to bridge the gender gap by bringing in more empowered women in form of doctors, engineers, lawyers, bankers, and this will be able to bring about sustainable development. This is where I would call upon every woman and man in this room, when they go back to their communities, try empowering a young girl in your community, since they're the future of tomorrow. Thank you.
Me? Yes, okay.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to introduce you to Abir, who was born in a refugee camp, experiencing the difficulties of displacement firsthand. It was after 12 years that she returned to Gaza and then to Hebron, where she lives today. And after she graduated, Abir was initially unemployed for a period of 2 years, though she spent that time downloading tutorials online and educating herself and upgrading her skills constantly. And it was from home, with no capital, just a laptop and an internet connection, that she founded her first business. The online model, she said, is a way around occupation. There are no checkpoints online. And it was Stay Linked, which connected Palestinians to businesses across the Gulf, America, and Europe. That was her first business. Her second was MENA Alliances, which scaled up that idea to connect not just Palestinians, but people across the Middle East and North Africa. She has been named one of the 100 most powerful Arabs under 40. She's won awards. Yes. And wait for this. Okay, ready? Not even the Gaza war last summer stopped Abir, who completed a project in the middle of all the bombardment and fighting. Because, as she said, it's not just about the business for her, but about hope. So let's give a warm round of applause once more.
Thank you so much. Across the Middle East and North Africa, women are twice as likely to be unemployed as men. And their involvement in the workforce is a quarter of the world average. In my country, Palestine, female unemployment is at 20%, one of the lowest in the world. Yet Arab women are more educated than ever before. So why is female unemployment so high? I live in one of the toughest places in the world. I live in Palestine. That's mean occupation. That means settlement, blockades, raids, incursions, and checkpoints. Restriction of movement is a key cause of high rates of unemployment and poverty in Palestine, especially among women. If women want to work, they must cross military checkpoint to get to the nearest cities where there is employment. The checkpoint caused delays in reaching the workplace on time or even at all. And our families become more protective. They are afraid to let us travel alone. Our cultures mean women can't live alone or stay out late at night. And as I was growing up I was told, women's future is in her husband's kitchen. It is a common view in the society. As a result, many women marry and stay at home to raise children, either by choice or because of societal pressures. Our education system does not give us all the tools that are relevant to finding work opportunities. I myself, having graduated with an degree in computer system engineering, was unable to find work for almost 2 years. I hear many times employers are looking for particular skills, like programming skills, and cannot find them. The skills taught in our schools and colleges are out of step with today's global market. But all of this does not have to be a barrier to employment or education. I'm passionate about connecting women around the world, linking resources, brain power, technology to create more sustainable, socially just, and productive communities. And the internet is a powerful tool which allows us to do so. Over the course of my career, I have been fortunate to work on several programs focused on promoting opportunities for women to contribute to the economy and bridging the skills gap between education and the employment. I trained more than 1,000 graduates in social networking, employability skills, and planning their career. In 2013, I established my own business, online business model, to enable women to work in the global market and provide them with the skills that they need to work online. I started without money. I start from my home with just laptop and the internet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In 3 years, the model has become profitable even during times of war. Over 2,000 freelancers, half of them female, have been trained online in a range of skills, including how to use internet and social media, computer programming, how to market themselves, and job-seeking skills. They have learned new skills relevant to today's job market, which traditional education does not provide. 300 professionals from the West Bank and Gaza, primary women, have completed 370 client contracts with global businesses based. Thank you. Thank you. Based in the US, UK, and the Gulf region. Our pilot company in Palestine is profitable, and we will now expand the model to cover all the Middle East and the North Africa. This online employment model brings the word to women and helps close the gender gap in both education and employment. Women may have many restrictions in their environment, we know that, but they can still reach out to the world. No one can stop these women now. Thank you, thank you. My dream is to create a platform that educate and generate more than 1 million jobs for women in Middle East and North Africa over the next 5 years. So, I would like to invite you to collaborate with me to achieving this dream. So, what we need from you as government, businesses, NGOs, and promising leaders, first, improve the connectivity or the infrastructure of connectivity in Middle East and North Africa. Second, equip women and youth with the tools, skills, and knowledge necessary for online work. Third, and most importantly, giving women the opportunity to work. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well done. That's great.
Hello, all the participants of One Young World. I'm here to introduce you to a lady with very wonderful mind and full of courage. Her name is Syria Farouk. She worked as the accountant, a chartered accountant at the PepsiCo's. She actually part of the founding members for the women's movement in Pakistan. Only 2% of the women are working in the large corporates in Pakistan. You can imagine, what kind of courage the women would have to take a step. They're almost like an alien stepping into the worlds of men in the large corporates. I very much admire her for that. What she actually doing is helping young women have confidence, building confidence. And first thing that she have to do is to deal with their parents, because it have become traditional in Pakistan, more or less a culture, that the women actually do not work. They only take care of the kids and follows the man. And this is, again, something that I would say that for us in a country that are quite open, with women working hand in hand, shoulder to shoulders with men, we do not feel that. But in a culture that only 2% of women are working, you can imagine what kind of things she have to go through and what kind of courage and how wonderful she's thinking about making this change for Pakistan. I would like to say that for my personal beliefs, women have a better, certainly have a better EQs than men. And most of the leaders are actually, the more important part is the EQ more than the IQs. And these beliefs come from that the women actually have the mother nature, the nature that they actually raise the child, protect the child, and really give everything they have for the child. And to remind that all men are actually have a woman's mother. And for that, certainly, we all are giving our best and moral support to Syria for what she has been doing and continue to do. And certainly, I would like to recommend one of the coach here or advisor to you, and that is Kate. She's a very strong woman, very, very forceful, and very good in heart. So she's a right role model to advise and for whatever you are doing. But if you have a thought that you want to control men, you can ask my wife to be your counselor. May I introduce you again, and if you can all give the hand of applause to Syria Farouk.
Good evening, everyone. The World Inequality Database in Education ranks Pakistan as one of the highest rates of girls from poor background who have never even spent time in a classroom. It is also among the bottom 10 countries of the world for the amount of time young women have spent in school in their lifetime. Pakistan is the 6th most populous country of the world. Its overall literacy rate is 58%. For females, it is only 46%, while for male, it is 70%. we have a long way to end gender disparity in education. The cultural norms in Pakistan do not let women enjoy their legal and religious rights. The skewed perception that a daughter has no role to play in a family and she can neither be a provider nor a protector results in discrimination and violence. Women are killed in the name of honor if ever try to raise their voice for basic human rights. Education, work, marriage, these are far beyond their decision-making because majority still needs permission to step out of their homes to visit a hospital. And this permission is often not granted even if they are dying. And their voice is never heard in a so-called male-dominated conservative society. In rural areas, those trying to raise their voice against such discrimination become victims of violence. We all remember Malala. The result is 28% females of school-going age have ever attended school. 17% reach primary school, but only 7% get into higher education. Even worse, a mere 2% is represented at the corporate sector. This is what drove me to play my part for enabling women to stand with courage, overcome their fears, and their own and the family well-being flourish. At my company, we initiated an on-site child daycare facility to help keep those women who can come out to work in work. Keeping these women in work will act like a beacon of light for other women. Otherwise, roughly 70% of females stop working after marriage because of childcare and family pressures. We also started a mentorship program called My Buddy, a development tool for all the females in the workplace. Every female has a male buddy, a mentor, which is a huge cultural shift. This program aims to create a sense of security and confidence among women and to change men's perception of women's role in society. My colleagues and I also volunteered our own personal time to reach out to young, underprivileged schoolgirls to create a positive change in their lives under a program called I Am PepsiCo, which offers mentorship and confidence-building workshops given by successful females so that women can feel the confidence in working in today's society. We visit schools in deprived areas to create awareness for the need of education and the role women can play in society. About 64 schools across Pakistan have been visited, and offer scholarships to young girls to encourage them to stay and attend the school. We received an overwhelming response, not only from these young girls, but also their parents. One parent said, "It was a pleasant surprise to see the potential my daughter has to think for herself and for us." Our intention is to reach a minimum of 1,000 students and provide 100 scholarships by 2016. I wish to shift this outdated cultural mindset through education and awareness. I have lit a small flame of hope for a brighter, safer future for my gender. I ask you all to get involved. Work for women education, to give them a better future and access to their basic human rights. So, when you all go back home, young leaders ask the companies you work for to set up a program where men are mentoring women so we can change the perception of women's value in workplace. And then ask them to take such a program outside their office walls and into the community so we can change the perception of women's role in society. Then we will close the gender gap. Thank you.
Suphachai has had the problems and suffered the problems of Cambodia in her own life. Her grandfather was murdered by the Khmer Rouge, and that she knows perfectly well the crimes that were committed and the aftermath of those crimes. And she's devoted her life now to helping women against violence of all kinds. It's a most inspiring story. She founded, I think 2 years ago, an organization called Life of Women Human Rights Defenders, in which she documents the lives of, I think, 10 human rights defenders and publishes the stories, makes sure that everybody virtually in the country can know what's happened to those women and draw the lessons from them. She's a national consultant for the United Nations for women, and she's working with the Cambodian government, which is a very different government now, thank God, to reform policy and legislation. She has dedicated her life, as I say, to combating violence and discrimination against women. And I think it's going to be a very inspiring message that she has for us. You.
Thank you so much. During the last decade, there has been a rise in violence committed against women in Cambodia. At least 25% of women have experienced domestic violence in 2012, and at least over 1,000 cases of violence against women and children were reported. Many of these were fighting to defend their lands, their homes, and their labor's rights. And they run a high risk of being subject to smear campaigns based on gender stereotypes, violence within their family and community, and they receive little recognition for their work. All of this motivated me to promote the rights of women, enhancement of civil power, and prevention of violence against women, the female human rights activists in Cambodia. To end violence against women, we need more awareness raising in family and on community level. Importantly, women cannot stand alone. They need supporter and encourager to fight for social justice. That oftentimes it is you and other people who surround them. During my daily life, I keep asking myself, as a young Cambodian, what can I do to eliminate violence against women in my country? So I found a line of women human rights defenders, which aim at raising awareness of the public on the issues of women human rights defenders in Cambodia. And when I first started the project, I had nothing. I just told myself, let's do it, Satiri. And I had nothing, I no knowledge. I was not a gender or women's rights expert. I didn't know how to create a blog or website. I didn't know how to film or edit a video. I didn't even have equipment or a budget to run a project. Especially, I want to share the story to all people around the world, but I fear that my English skill wasn't good enough. I just have ambitions to eradicate violence against women and to reduce gender disparity in Cambodia. That gives me the drive and the energy. I took actions, even if it was small. I used my capacity and ability to make a better world. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it could be improved step by step. The most important thing at the time was to give myself a starting point. Through the website, the project documented and published the life story of women human rights defenders. It's become a social media platform for young people to talk about women human rights defenders in Cambodia. It educates people, raise awareness of the issue of women's rights, and provide women themselves with a space to share with other people their life story, their experience, their desire to live a life with dignity, to live a life where they can exercise their human rights. The site is visited by both men and women, and they comment and support the women human rights defender. and some men comments on our website, our social media link. They appreciate our work. And they said we are doing a great job. And some men even willing to be video, to tell their story of what they are doing in supporting women in Cambodia. And from August to October of this year, we got over 1,000 people visit our website, and over 100,000 people who have seen any contents from the social media link, the project social media link. This means more and more people are learning about human rights and women's rights in Cambodia. I believe the power of young people can change the world, because in Cambodia, I witnessed how young people can make change at institutional and political level. All of us can contribute in eliminate violence against women. When you go back home, you just have to build peace, have to end violence against women by educating your community, document and share the story of women human rights defenders to your friends, your families, and your society. It is easy. You have just do it. Thank you so much.
Keep it short now. Hi, again. So, I thought why organizers of this event chose us as a pair, and I thought because of sneakers, which we share, because of our love to sneakers and comfortable shoes, and and short hair, yeah. So we, yes, I know this woman just for half an hour, but I already can say that she could be my sister. You know, I always have a dream to be somebody like her, but I couldn't, just because of my education. And because my background is a small Russian provincial town where everybody believes that women have to be shy, modest, silent, and very weak, obviously. That's why I had no idea in my childhood how to fight and how to defend myself. But why we need weak women? Who need these weak women? People who want to be free to abuse them or to rape them? Dominate over them. Thank you. She lives in Jordan, and she studied French literature. And now she's empowering women through self-defense. She trained about 10,000 women. She won UN Women Business Global Award #1. And even Barack Obama mentioned her achievements in his speech. And now she's training Syrian refugees, Syrian women, which is amazing. You have to know 3 words about her. These words is Taekwondo, boxing, and Kung Fu. She is a fighter, and her name is Lina.
Thank you, Nadya. I hope I won't scare you with this outfit. They actually made me wear it today. I'm not gonna harm anybody, I swear. Okay, in 2004, one of my friends, Sarah, used to work part-time after university. Often, I saw her with bruises on her face. When I asked her what's wrong, she never answered. Until one day she told me every time she went home, her brother and father used to beat her up and take her money. Every single day. I asked her, why don't you do something about it? She said, what can I do? There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I felt really bad. It made me realize how women suffer from violence and they don't have the courage to take an action. 70% of women under 20 years old suffer from domestic violence in Jordan, and no one feels responsible. My background is in martial arts. I decided to take an action. I started training women self-defense at the basement of my house to teach them how to protect and defend themselves from different types of violence and have control over their lives. In 2012, I started my own self-defense studio, She Fighter. It is the first and only self-defense studio for women in Jordan and the Middle East. By teaching women self-defense, they start feeling more secure, confident, and healthy. We provide workshops on harassment, sexual assaults, and domestic violence. We teach women not to accept violence, not to be victims, and to be prepared for any dangerous attack. Men are also invited to give workshops on how important it is for both men and women to work in society to develop the country and enhance the economy. And our workshops are popular with women of all ages, even 75 years old. Our seniors, supporters, are women who are confident and sure about the importance of women empowerment in life. When I started She Fighter, no one believed me. They said, women will never defend themselves, and this idea will fail. I proved them wrong. Since the opening, we have trained more than 10,000 women all over Jordan and the Middle East. That shows you. That shows you how scared women are. Let me tell you a story of Lubna, who got attacked recently in the elevator in her own building by a stranger. She said, I was walking toward the elevator. As I stepped inside, I felt myself being pushed against the wall. A guy was trying to choke me, then he tried to rape me. I felt really scared and started sweating, but I used my self-defense training and started pushing him away from me. Suddenly, he was afraid, so he ran. I was so angry, I chased him through the streets. I asked some guys for help, and they managed to catch him. Then the police came. I pressed charges against him in court and managed to send him to jail for 3 years for sexual assault. In any country where gender-based violence is accepted as a norm, that is almost unheard of. Women should not live in fear. They must be strong enough to face every challenge in their lives. We can empower women and strive to give women equal opportunities in life, and we must believe in them and support them. In today's world, women are essential to the growth of a country's economy. After all, they are roughly 50% of the available workforce. They should be able to contribute without fear. Self-defense is one great approach to build women's self-esteem. But there are many other tools we can use, such as motivational workshops, to help create a female generations of leaders, change makers, and influencers. As young leaders, I ask all of you, including the men, to help end gender-based violence. If you see someone who is a victim of domestic violence, help them find support in their community. And if there isn't any, set something up. It doesn't have to be martial arts. By doing so, let's end gender-based violence and make martial arts as a hobby rather than a means of self-defense. Let's work for a better world where women can shine above all obstacles. Thank you.
Wow, the delegate speakers. Wow. Okay, now we're going to ask the councillors to please go to the floor. Councillors, if you would each go to one of the microphone stands and introduce the delegates that come up by their name and their country.
So we can take 2 speakers at each of the different microphones, and we're going to ask a councillor to go and man each microphone and introduce the delegate speaker, just their name and the country they're from. What a fantastic breadth of amazing speeches from our delegate speakers. Well done, guys.
2 at each microphone. 2 questions at each. What about you lot? Goodness gracious.
So we've got John, Fatima, John.
I'm not sure as well.
John, do you want to kick us off over there? So just the name of the person and their country.
Okay. Second, it's Gloria from South Africa.
Okay. So we have Gloria from South Africa.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank the incredible ladies who just motivated me even more about education. I'm very, very passionate about it. I just want to give you a little bit background about myself. Gloria Pala, I'm from Soweto, but I work for Arab, a consulting firm. We are a civil engineering firm. So I work in a mainly dominated area. So I know how it feels to be surrounded and be around men, basically. But what really inspired me, again, is Arab has it's called Arab Education Trust. So I went ahead and became a trustee in that. So we give out bursaries. We have a program for our secondary schools to try and remediate our education system that is going on in our country. But we're facing a challenge. Our challenge is after our beneficiaries graduate, we can't find work for them. We try, actually we can, but we're struggling to penetrate the industry to give them work, and also to give them work just to be penetrated into the industry. It's very, very difficult. So my question is how, as a trustee, I pose it to myself. I don't want to pose it to anyone. How am I, I'm a lady here, how can I go into the industry and really try and shift the mind to say, you know what, we've got incredible, I mean, we had interviews recently, those children are bombs, targets, waiting to be given an opportunity to actually explore themselves. So we're running a cycle of, it's really a cycle of them not getting opportunities, but those who at home who cannot get any opportunities, they don't want to study because they're saying there's no employment.
How do you make a difference? That's your question.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Sorry.
Just a reminder, when we bring the councillors back up, the councillor and delegate speakers will answer the questions that they felt most relevant or pertinent or interesting to them. So Fatima, over to you, please.
Hi, we have Tangwa Livinus from Cameroon, and it's a general question as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tangwa Livinus from Cameroon. It's a pleasure to be among you today. I'm a human rights activist, a youth-led activist as well, and I've been working with children for some time now. So, after hearing from the speakers and the councillors, I began to ask myself, what about these children who are not being educated? Not because they are women, but because education, which ought to be a basic human right, has been taken away from them. Not just because the families want to accept it that way, but because of poverty, which is, I believe, is one of the major causes of child labor. So where I come from, the community where I come from, child labor is an issue. It's an abuse to children's rights. And every day, a child is sent out of school because they don't have the money to pay their education. And because of this, their parents are forced to use them as a livelihood means, because the children go to work for their families, they work to take care of their families. So I'm asking, what is the world doing in order to solve this problem? Is it just education? Is it fighting poverty? But we need to look into it and see what to do. Recently, I started a program, Help a Child Stay in School. We are helping children in order to give them that right, which is theirs. It's a basic right, and every child must have education. Every child must be educated, and we need to help these families which are poor and take care of these children. Thank you.
Kun Suphachai.
May I introduce Wanarak Bunya Kuncharan. She's asking the question about the Thai education.
So first of all, thank you for such inspirational speeches. So due to the fact that Thailand is a hierarchical society, education is often used as a tool of suppression, especially during the time of political and social turmoil, such as the present time. The hierarchic aspect in education prevents not only Thai women, but youth as a whole from critical thinking and expressing their views, which opposes the constructed social norm. With this ideology in mind, how can we empower Thai youth to have the courage to engage and push forward positive social change?
Brilliant question. Thank you. John.
I have a questioner from Australia whose name I may not be able to forget very easily because it's Tom Simpson, and I think I've caused him some problems when he's been travelling around. So, Tom Simpson from Australia.
It actually wasn't me who had the troubles. It was actually my dad, John Simpson. When he was travelling around the Middle East in the 80s, apparently he wasn't ticking the reporter box. So, my question actually, it comes off the back of Fatima's speech, and thank you very much for raising my awareness of the, I guess, education situation for Syrian refugees. Australia will be accepting 12,000 refugees in the coming, I think, year or so. Which, you know, whether that's enough or not, it's not the point. How do we ensure that we're prioritising the right things when it comes to educating the refugees for the receiving country? So, do we need to prioritise, you know, them learning English, or do we need to prioritise continuation of their education in their local language, or do we need to prioritise vocational education? That's the question that I have. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you.
Nadya.
Hi, again. Here is Hassan Reda. He's from Lebanon, and he has general question.
Hi, everybody. I just want to give a big shout out to the delegate speakers here, and especially to Abir and Lina. You both are inspirations to all of us. And you're showing that Arab women are smart, capable, and strong. Abir, especially to you, because some people don't know the type of conditions people live in Palestine. It's been described as the biggest open-air prison in the world, and people don't know how to appreciate whatever you're doing there and the impact you're having.
Right.
Just was a big shout out, no question here.
Yeah. It was a great shout out, thank you. John.
So with a question, we have Tipia from Thailand.
So I was so inspired by the speech of the second speaker delegates from Palestine, and I really want to volunteer to join your network and hope that we can have a conversation. And thank you. And my background is that I'm now a delegate sponsored by Siam Piwat, and I will do some certain project, CSR project about education. And I want to tell you that in Thailand, the problems of gender equality might not be as severe as in the Middle East, but it does exist. Many girls in our country attend school. However, many girls are forced to drop out from school since 9th grade due to many external factors. And as the education system is not very effective, they have less chance to be successful in life. And many of them end up being prostitutes, end up in the streets. My question is that as a young Thai leaders, what can we do in order to take a single step towards reforming education system in Thailand?
Great, thank you. John, do you want to come back up onto the stage? And Fatima, your next question.
Okay. We have Arti Surya Kumar from India, and she has a big appeal and a small question, or was it the other way around? Okay.
Hello, everybody. It was really very inspiring to hear you talk, all the delegates out there, the delegate speakers. It's really inspiring. Okay, my question is, maybe I could just say, I personally feel we've all been talking about education. Along with it, there is one more very important aspect. In many countries around the world, there is dowry system in place, which is, I believe, a root cause for female infanticide across the world. So we need, as we are talking about education also, we need to address the dowry system and challenge that as well. And because dowry system, why I say that? Because that's the main reason women are considered a burden. When a girl child is born, she's considered as a burden to the entire family. Okay, now moving on to my appeal, I would especially like to appeal to all the young delegates, especially the female delegates, because you are going to become mothers, maybe some of you are already. Treat your son and daughter the same, equally, treat them equally. Education begins at home. Let us all take up the responsibility and behave well at home and act as examples, right? And let's start it at home. Thank you.
Suphachai.
May I introduce Tirat? He's from Thailand. He wants to address the questions on how to build in the morality in educational system.
Sawadee krab. First of all, I would like to thank you, everyone who's trying to solve the education problems. I believe that education is the key to everything, and with the correct education, people would not make the mistake what we are making today. However, for me, I think that just normal education is not enough. But we need to educate people to have a good heart, to be good people. Most of the people know what the problem is. We are aware of the problem. We have learned about the problems, but we choose to do nothing about it. Therefore, my question is, how do we create moral consciousness to the people who choose to ignore the problems? How do we educate those people to know what is right and what is wrong when innocent people are the victim? Thank you.
Thank you. Suphachai, do you want to come back up on stage? John, over to your question.
I have a question from another Thai delegate, Natasuda Anusona Desai, and it's a particularly interesting question, I feel.
Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Natasuda Anusona Desai from Thailand. And all the speeches that I heard today really emphasize my belief that education is such a powerful tool. My father used to say that the most important gift that he could ever give is education. And what your stories today really make me believe in that even more. And all of your speeches, like when you talk about empowering women and all the business that you set up, I believe it predictably there must be some threats that you have to face, especially from those who might feel like they lose benefits when the vulnerable people are educated, because it's such an important tool, a powerful tool. So while you are trying to encourage the women to step out of the zone, or vulnerable people to step out of the zone and achieve their goals while dealing with the threats, how do you do that? How do you accomplish that? Thank you.
Great question. And Nadya, final question from your podium, please.
We have a question from Mina Mazin from United Arab Emirates, and her question is about training refugees from Syria.
Hi, this question is for Lena. And my question is, what kind of values were instilled when you were training the Syrian refugees, and how did it help in overcoming the psychological trauma they've been through? Thank you.
Terrific. Nadya, if you come back up on stage, please.
Nadya.
So we'd like a quick 30-second, 60-second comment or statement from each of you to anything particularly pertinent that moved you. John.
I think something for people to be aware of is that these problems that we're talking about today don't just exist in the 5 countries that are represented here on the stage.
Yeah.
These are global issues that face every country in the world, developing, it doesn't matter. And when you leave here, go back keeping that in mind no matter what country you come from.
Yeah. Just carry on, go down the line. No, we'll go to the delegate speakers as well.
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to Raymond, who is the one gentleman here among us, working to help women. So it's not just women working for other women. There's also brave and committed people like Raymond. So thank you to him.
I say a few words on the educations. Again, a lot of great questions. Most of the time, what I experience for the education issues is, first is definitely from the poverties issues. And a lot of communities will not be able to stand up by themselves. And therefore, the schools, if the community is weak, they can't really contribute to the school. And they can't really make sure that their children and grandchildren can go to the good school. And this is, again, very fundamental problem for us all, looking at the underprivileged communities around the world. How we solve that is certainly a very difficult question. But first thing is that you can't wait for someone to help. The communities have to stick together, and you have to encourage the entrepreneurships who actually sticks out and willing to sacrifice himself to build a sustainable models of the way of living for the communities. And with that, then you can have someone who are willing to help, whether it's private sectors and whether it's the government. So for the community to be sustainable, the entrepreneurship, the sacrifices, the leaders of the communities have to, you have to be able to identify that persons. And perhaps that person can be one of the young speakers here as well. But he just needs the support, and he just needs to step further, make more courage. The second issue is about education is about transparency. The transparency of whether or not the countries or itself knows which schools are doing what and what are the pain points and which are the areas of pain points. So with the modern digital technology and internet, if you can create the transparencies of what the schools are lacks of, then a bigger communities or the other part of the societies can actually be able to contribute to help solve the pain points or the weak point for those schools. Now, then there comes the financial part as well. The financial part whereby the government, including the private sectors, if what they can do is setting up a legitimate funding systems, and the funding system where the donors can trust that those are transparent and the money are well used to actually give the chance for students and young students, and for the communities, in every school across the countries. So there are different elements that we have to sort of work together in order to improve the school educations. And lastly, about the moralities building into the school systems. We are too much into the academics kind of gradings and exams and all that. We are producing students that are come out and work in the corporates, and sometimes they are working in silos and their responsibilities. What is lacked of is the encouragement of the imaginations and the dreams, and what role they take in serving the public service. If the schools can have the activities or action learning programs, or the way to get these young students to learn about the community service and to learn about the pain point of the society, their imaginations and their way of looking at the problem in a holistic way would definitely be able to change, the whole educational system.
Fantastic. John, quick comment from you.
The most interesting thing I thought from each of the speakers that we heard in different ways came down to the question of who you think you are yourself, because who you think you are is, of course, what you are. And so often people, and this is particularly true of women in many countries, but not only women, people feel that they are nothing, that they're not important, they don't count. I once, in Afghanistan, had to go to an area that was controlled by the Taliban, and I had to dress up as a woman. I had to wear the burqa, which is, I was the biggest woman in Afghanistan by some way, for 48 hours or 56 hours something. And, but it was extraordinary, the change that not only came over other people when I put this ghastly thing on and became nobody of any interest to anyone. Actually, it was rather useful for getting through roadblocks and things. But I noticed the effect it had on me too. It made me feel passive and unimportant and insignificant. And it was only when I took this thing off, finally, after the 48 hours, that I felt empowered once again. And it seems to me that we all have to do that we all as human beings have to do that, have to take off these masks, really, which keep us down and keep us inferior and keep us small and pathetic. We have to do that ourselves, and we have to encourage other people to do it.
Yeah. Nadya, final comment.
Please fight for your rights. That's all.
Hey. And it would seem appropriate to give the last word to one of our very smart, powerful women. So, Lena, do you want to answer the question that was asked at the end?
Yeah, thank you. What I want to say for you, the 12 years in refugee camp teach me that I should not wait someone to give me the opportunity. I should create this opportunity in my own hand. More than 40 students, we were in the schools, in refugee camp, in the same class. So that's not mean that that's will affect on all my life. So I think the self-learning, that's the one of the main things that we should taught for our children. We should taught them how to learn without anyone, without need anyone. We should learn them that we have tools like internet, we have YouTube, we can download tutorial, online tutorial. So I think now And in this center, we don't have barriers. We can overcome all these barriers. And for who's asked me about the market and how we can find jobs, I think, for example, for me, I used LinkedIn. I start search about job opportunities for women. I start connecting with people. We should be open to connect with people around the world. We should learn English language, and we should learn new skills. And I think that's our responsibility. We should not blame anyone on anything. We should take the responsibility, and we should create the opportunity in our hands. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, first I want to answer the question about threat. I believe if you don't have a successful business, you're not going to face any threat. So you have to face threat during your journey of business. I have received lots of threats, but that doesn't stop me. If it does stop you, it means that that's the end of your journey. But it's okay to face threats. I would share, I'd like to share one of the threats I have received. He's a lawyer, and he wanted to shut down Suphachai, my business, because I was teaching his wife, and they had a fight, and she punched him in the face. And it's totally true. I received this document from court telling me, you have 24 hours to come to court, and it started a big problem. I have to finish it. So I received many threats. I still face many challenges. It's okay. Any successful business will face challenge. That's my answer for the challenge. You're gonna have challenge all the way in your journey in business. About a question of Mina, she said if we work on the psychological part with the Syrian refugees, we do work on that if the budget is really big enough and I can hire a psychiatrist to deal with them. But usually the self-defense training by itself builds self-confidence in women. So women, let's say, or teenagers, they never punched or hit a target before, or a punching bag. But when they do that, they feel how empowered they become, and they start feeling more confidence, and they start going out by themselves, or taking a taxi, or walking in the street, and they tell me, we don't care, we're not afraid. So the training itself built self-confidence. We do lots of discussions with the Syrian refugees, or Jordanians, or any women who it doesn't have to be suffer from violence, but just teenagers or Syrian refugees, sometimes foreign workers who come to Jordan to work with the factories. So we have done lots of training, and the training itself makes them different people after the training. So yeah, we do work on the psychological part, if I answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you.